list. I have a low bar for things to be magic, just so you know. So to me, a scene list is truly magical. All right, so this is the next part of writing killer scenes. Become a scene expert in just one day. Part of the Write Better Now course. We'll have more courses coming up. So the magic of a scene list. You may be a writer who outlines first, a plotter, or a writer who has no idea where her story will take her, pantser. But either way, at some point in the process, it can be really fun to write a scene list that shows all those building blocks of your story. I know, fun. I sound like I've been doing a Hemingway and drinking all day, but I promise you that it can be a good thing and even, gasp, fun. If you're familiar with Randy Inger Mason's The Snowflake Method, then you'll know what I'm talking about here. For people who outline their novels ahead of time, the scene list helps them organize their book structure. For those of us who don't outline first, meaning me, the scene list can help us realize what's wrong with our structures. And then we get a look like this, right? This is me, the writer who doesn't outline. So Monica Clark on the writing practice breaks down her scenes and what she puts on an Excel sheet or a Google document really well. On her document for each scene, she has a column for point of view, a column for a short summary of the scene, a column with what she thinks the word count will be, and then column 4, what the word count actually is when she's done writing the scene. And you can see that right here. And you can do this too. Or you can add in what you think the point of the scene is. Remember what we talked about in the first lesson, right? Different scenes do different things, but they have a purpose if they are meant to be in the story and move the narrative forward. C.S. Larkin has a guest post on Jerry Jenkins's blog about the 8 steps to creating a scene list, which is pretty helpful if you like steps. There's a link in the resources section below. According to Clark, scene lists help you keep on track, and they also help you edit. Aaron Pogue calls scene lists planes of action, and this is especially true for those of us who pre-write. Pogue is not a pantser, but he is a definite plotter and actively warns against the process of writing by the seat of your pants, because I guess he's a guy who thinks you can only do things one way. So I'm not going to get that into that here really, but let me quickly stress that there is no one right way to write a novel. I know a novelist who makes a bunch of scenes during her first draft, prints them out on the floor, moves them around, puts them in order, and she writes absolutely non-linear first drafts. She's an award-winning, brilliant author, and one of my editors said that's the sexiest way to write a novel ever. Personally, I think the typewriter is pretty sexy, but whatevs. We all have different taste. Another writer friend I know who teaches at a prestigious MFA program writes a first draft and throws it away as soon as she's done. She deletes the entire file and she saves nothing. And then she starts over. Her idea is that the scenes that matter are the scenes that stick. She has a great point, but that's possibly the most terrifying thing I've ever heard about writing a first and then a second draft. See, like that. Terrifying. I would be drowning. I would fear. But back to scene lists and Pogue's advice on NaNoWriMo, where they say, a scene list is primarily useful as a pre-writing or editing tool. It forces you to map out the actual structure of your story down to the very building blocks, and then gives you an easy place to spot errors or weak spots to tinker and rearrange. To make a scene list, you start at the very beginning of your story and write 1 to 2 paragraphs describing what happens in every scene. When you're finished, you'll have your entire plot down on paper, every twist and every turn, without all that messy setup design, characterization, and description. Some authors have been so kind as to share their scene lists, or they're dead and their relatives have shared them. So you might want to check them out when you're thinking about yours. Here is a monstrous one. Here is something that looks like what I would do. It's like, the feast is ended. Read Violet Leduc. At the end, go through my notebooks. And then we have this one, which is very orange and kind of hard to read because of it's obviously behind a glass and somebody took a picture of it, and then it's blurry because we have all sorts of wildness going on. And this one I like because it looks like a monster is coming to attack everyone, right? And you can see like little things like Harry, you know, having, or Harvey, Hoover and FBI, RFK, and then all these little like amazing notes and jots down in there trying to make sense of everything. So as you can see from these, there's no one right way or wrong way to do this. Authors have been doing it for ages. Like, can you even guess the stories in those photos? As you see, some writers do not have the best handwriting either, so no judgment from us. But scene lists can be so valuable when you're looking at those building blocks and trying to determine if everything makes sense. Do things lag? Is there even a story going on? Is there cause and effect of plot? It can help you see where some of the building blocks aren't constructed all that well and are missing those elements that we talked about in the earlier lessons, which is pretty cool, right? Here's some resources. The link to Randy Ingerson and the Snowflake Method, link to Writing Practice, Juno Raimo, and that link to the Laskin post on Jerry Jenkins' blog. And here's the credits. Thanks. I hope you stick around. We'll learn a little bit more in a sec.